Hi everybody, my name's Yvette. I'm coming to you from Yvette Marie's Fine Arts and Crafts. Today I'm going to be showing you how to work the single crochet stitch. This is a sample of a single crochet stitch here. This is a sample just so you can see the difference of a half double crochet, a double crochet, and a treble or triple crochet here. This one I worked in worked in 9 stitches. I thought I did 10, but when I recounted at the end, looks like I did 9. This is 10 stitches across, 10 stitches across, and 10 stitches across. You'll see the difference in how big this is compared to this, even with 1 stitch difference, or these sizes here. Depending on how many stitches you work, following your pattern, you'll definitely want to make sure that if you're following a pattern that you follow it carefully, because you'll see how using these different stitches can make a really big difference, even using the same number of stitches, or even just with this one being off 1 stitch. Okay, and you'll see the depth. This is a row of stitches here. Here's your second row. You'll see how your rows are wider here, and you've got your rows a little wider here, and then you have your wider rows here. Less rows to make a square compared to the other stitches. These are a lot deeper and these are a lot narrower. This little tiny row here, this little tiny row here. So here's an up close shot of the single crochet stitch, and this is what we're going to be working on today. So I'm going to be using for this example a size 10.5, also known as a size K crochet hook, and I'm just going to be using a regular yarn, and I'm just going to work 10 stitches across, and I'll do a few rows and then I'll bind off or cast off so you can see how to end your stitching if you're just making something simple like a scarf. So we're just going to first make a slip knot, an adjustable slip knot, and we're going to keep our tail in our hand, and we're just going to create a circle like this. Then you're going to place your yarn underneath, and you're going to pull that yarn through. Oops. And you'll see that it creates this adjustable knot here. I'll do that one more time real quick for you. For the beginners, just create a circle, crisscross it over, kind of like a pretzel, and grab this yarn underneath, pull it through. Okay, so then I'm going to take my crochet hook and I'm just going to place it inside that first slip knot. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put 10, I'm going to do 10 chains plus 1 for the end, for when we turn our work to work backwards, and I'll show you what that is in just a moment. So I'm going to go ahead and do a chain of 10. If you're not familiar with what the chain is, please check out my other video that just shows you how to do a simple chain. So we're going to, and I'm going to show it to you here as well. So I'm just going to bring the yarn around, pull through, not pulling too tightly because you don't want this to create, this is going to be your first border edge. If you pull it too tight at the beginning of your work, it's going to show where you're going to have this really tight row at the beginning, and then everything else will loosen up. So we're going to do 10. So I just did 1. So here's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now when you're working a single crochet and you're just doing rows and rows and rows of single crochet, you're going to add 1 stitch at the end of the first row for turning your work. So you're just going to add 1 more stitch to make 11. The reason is, when we turn our work and we start going back this way into the work, you want to have that little bit of extra like this here for the corner as you turn. We're going to skip the first stitch right here. We're going to work into the second stitch. And that's the reason you want to have this extra stitch, because it creates a little bit of that curve that turns it this way. So it gives you kind of something to work, so it's not real tight and it doesn't turn real weird. Okay, so we're going to skip the first stitch. We're going to take our hook. Make sure you keep this nice and straight like this here so that you see all these stitches. This is the back, this is the front. You'll see the back looks a little different with these little stitches in between. This is the front of your work. It looks like a whole bunch of V's. Okay? So just make sure as you're working back down your row in this direction, we're going to work our single crochets. Keep your work straight like this here. We're going to be working into these top stitches along the row here. So you don't want to pull your yarn too tight here, just keep it gently loose here. So we're going to skip this first stitch here and we're going to work into the second stitch by putting your yarn hook in that first stitch. This is called the yarn over by bringing your yarn around your yarn hook here. So we're going to yarn over one, pull the hook back through, yarn over again, and then pull it through both of those stitches or chains. So now we've got one single crochet worked into that second stitch as we skipped the first one. So now we're working one. We're going to repeat that across the row. Second one, we're going to go into the second chain here. This would be our third one. And we've already worked into this one here. So this is a second single crochet. So we're going to work into this one. Gently pull your yarn just so that it's not too loose hanging over here, but you don't want it too tight either, or it'll get really bunchy. You're going to wrap the yarn around the hook, pull it back through one time, wrap the yarn around one more time, yarn over, and then pull through both of those. You'll see you've got 1, 2 stitches on your hook. Now you've got 2 single crochets here. Okay, so now we're going to work our third one. Okay, yarn over, which it kind of automatically does that in your hand. Pull through, yarn over again, and pull through both of those. Now you've got 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so we're just going to do the same thing working across the row in each of these stitches here, 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 here. So we're going to do one more. Pull through both, work into that next one. Notice I'm keeping this row nice and straight so that I'm working into the correct stitches. And as you're holding your yarn in your left hand like this here, or whatever's comfortable for you, you'll notice as you place your hook through that first stitch, you can almost just catch it like this here to pull through like that, instead of having to go one, wrap it around, pull it through, wrap it again, pull it through. It tends to get natural where you just kind of have that yarn ready to go. Okay, so now we've worked all 10 stitches. You'll see all the single crochets. You'll see at the top, you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I've got 10 there, and I've got the one left on the hook that I'm actually working with. At the end of each row, when you're single crocheting, you're going to chain 1, and all that means is you're going to take your working yarn, you're going to wrap it around your hook, and you're going to pull it through like so. So you've got 1 chain right here, not including the stitches you just worked. We're not going to work into this chain. We're going to work into this one here that's actually part of the row of work that we did. So now what you want to do is you're going to flip your work to the other side so that you're going to work back down this way to the left again. If you look at the side of your work, this is what your work's going to look like. This will be the top of your work. You want to make sure that when you're working and doing your single crochets back this way, in this direction, that you're working into both strands of yarn here for each stitch that you do. Remember, this is the yarn we're working with on the yarn hook. This one here is the chain one that we're not going to actually work into. This counts as a turning stitch. So now we're going to pick up both of these on our hook, and you're just going to place your hook through the first stitch, picking up both of those pieces of yarn, wrap your yarn around your hook again, pull it through both of them, wrap your yarn around the hook again, and pull it through both. That's your first stitch. Again, we're going to make sure we catch both of these stitches here. So you're going to work through the front to the back, catching both of them. Gently tighten a little bit, catching that wrap around, wrap around your yarn once, pull it back through your stitches, or your stitch, wrap your yarn around again, and pull it through both stitches. Now you've got 1 and 2 stitches on your work. Okay, we're just going to do the same thing all the way to the end, catching both strands, wrap around, pull through both pieces. Next stitch, make sure you go through both, front and back, wrap around, pull through both. Work into your next stitch, wrapping your yarn around your hook, grabbing it, pulling it through, wrapping your yarn around your hook one more time, pulling it through both stitches. So you'll see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left to work. So I'm just going to work to the end, and I'll go a little bit slowly here so you can watch and see what I'm doing and work along with me. Again, making sure that I'm catching both of those yarns, the front and back. And our last stitch here, it's going to look a little funky at the end. Here's your last stitch. It's always going to have the 2. You'll know this is not your last stitch here because it's just got a little loop on the end. This will be your last stitch that you're working into here. That's got the 2, it's got the 2 strands, the front and the back strand. Okay, so you'll pull through, wrap, and pull through both. So now we've got 2 full rows, and they're going to look the same on the front and the back of your single crochet. Again, remember to create a chain 1 at the end of your row before you turn your work over and start working down the row again. Remember not to work into this chain 1 that we just created here. You'll know that by knowing that your chain 1 is not going to be the stitch on your hook. It's going to be the one right next to it. Then you'll work back into that other stitch, that next stitch, working your single crochets all the way down your row again. And I'm just going to work the rest of this row, and I'll show you what it looks like. And you can just keep working this stitch back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for a simple scarf. Okay, we're almost done with that row. This is our 3rd full row. Again, last stitch here, we're going to grab those 2, wrap, and now you've got 3 rows of your single crochet. I'm going to show a separate video on how to cut your yarn and finish off. That'll be in a separate video, but this is just an easy video to to show you how to do the single crochet stitch. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me at YvetteMariesFineArt@gmail.com. I'm happy to answer any questions. Please check out my other videos and subscribe to my channel. I have lots of videos coming with fun patterns that you can use to work these stitches. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.